Encinitas is one of the most competitive markets in San Diego, and the median home price is about $2 million. So today I'm going to show you both the good and the bad and break down exactly what you get for that price. You're going to see the lifestyle differences, all the different neighborhoods and schools, and everything there is to do around here. All right, so let's get into it. Now I'm going to walk you through everything you need to know about Encinitas, and I actually grew up around here, so I spent quite a bit of time in the city, and even now I hang out here a lot because it's a really great place. And I think the biggest draw here is the lifestyle. It's very Southern California, classic surf town, and it has a very laid back vibe. Now, this is where you're gonna get some of the most amazing beaches in San Diego. There's Moonlight, Stone Steps, Swami's, Cardiff, so many different ones to check out, and you get access basically all along the coast. Moonlight has volleyball courts, fire pits, playgrounds, so families really like it here. And Swami's is one of the most popular surf spots in Southern California. Now, something that might surprise you is that Encinitas is a big wellness hub, and it kind of feels like everyone is super into health and fitness. So there's a ton of different fitness studios, yoga, hiking trails, and if you're into pickleball like I am, you should definitely check out Bobby Riggs right off Santa Fe Road. They have, I think, 16 courts, and it's a great place to meet new people. There's also running clubs and all kinds of other group activities, and Encinitas kind of feels like a small town, so you end up seeing a lot of the same people around. So if that's the kind of lifestyle you want, you're absolutely gonna love it here. And look, there's so many different lifestyles to choose from in San Diego, so if you're seriously considering Encinitas, I work with families moving here all the time. And of course, I can walk you through all the different neighborhoods and show you exactly where to look. So if you need any help, you can call, text, or email me anytime or just scan the QR code. Now, most of Encinitas is very walkable, especially the closer you get to the coast. The Highway 101 goes right through here, and we'll talk more about downtown Encinitas in a bit, but this is where most of the best restaurants are. Now, usually what I like doing is we'll try to get there around sunset and walk around a bit before we grab dinner. But there's honestly so many solid food options, and we like going to Urban Sea or Bird's Eye, or sometimes we just keep it simple and go somewhere like the taco stand. But really the best part of downtown Encinitas is that everything's right there, so you can just park the car and walk everywhere. All right, let's talk about some of these neighborhoods. And what you probably don't know is that there's basically 5 different areas. And the first one's Lucadia. Now, almost all of Encinitas feels like a surf town, but Lucadia is a little sleepier, a little more local, and it's super walkable. You got great restaurants, especially on Highway 101, and this is where you're gonna have all your food spots. So you definitely have to try Fish 101, which is one of my favorite places to eat, but they also have all kinds of other places. You can easily spend an afternoon just walking around and hanging out in Lucadia. Now, if you look at the neighborhoods around here, some people love it and some don't. So the biggest thing I hear is that it doesn't feel super organized, and some of these houses were built decades ago. There's not a ton of sidewalks, the streets are a little tighter, so it's not this super polished master plan community. It feels more authentic, and you have some of these cool little beach cottages, and some of them have actually been remodeled into these giant homes. So like I said, it depends on what you like, but they have some amazing properties over here. Now, downtown Encinitas is right in the middle of everything, and I like going to the beach here because there's access all over the place. You got Moonlight, D Street, Swami's, but we also like it because of all the shops, bars, and restaurants, so another very walkable area. It's also fun just jumping on an e-bike and going up and down the coast here, so there's some great things to do, but home prices are still pricey. Houses are easily a few million, and it's not a very big area, so not a lot to choose from. Summer also gets really busy, so if you don't like living with crowds, then probably not a good place for you. But it's definitely fun to visit for the day, and if you live in Encinitas, you're gonna be hanging out here quite a bit. All right, now let's talk about Cardiff, and this neighborhood is very cool because it kind of feels like its own little town. Everyone knows each other, they all go to the same places, and Seaside Plaza is basically the town center. There's Seaside Market, which is kind of your local market that everyone goes to, and they have the best tri-tip in San Diego, so you have to check that out if you're here. But they also have an East Coast pizza here, there's a brewery, and on the weekends, this place is packed with families and kids. So a great spot to meet new people. And Cardiff has a similar vibe to Lucadia, especially on the west side of the 5 freeway, but if you check out the east side, the neighborhoods feel way more planned out. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. You're still right by the beach, and people are always walking or biking around, so it has a very laid back feel to it. Now, Now, if you drive just a couple minutes inland, you start getting into New Encinitas, and right away it's gonna feel way more organized. Now, if you're absolutely looking for a master plan community, then you have to look at Encinitas Ranch. You've got a really nice golf course, there's lots of different hiking trails, and it has more of that typical suburban feel, but you're still only like 10 to 15 minutes from the beach. It's a great place for families, so there's a lot of kids around, and you kind of get away from all that summer traffic. There's also a ton of shopping nearby, especially over on El Camino Real. This is where all your big department stores are, so Target, Home Depot, and Best Buy. But it's not as walkable as Locatia or downtown Encinitas, but it's still super convenient. Now, Olivenhane's an area that feels completely different from everywhere else, and instead of that surf vibe, you're getting a way more of a rural feel. So this area is kind of an extension of Rancho Santa Fe, which is the most expensive area in San Diego, and these houses sit on bigger lot sizes. So people that live here really value their space. Maybe they want a pool or a big backyard, and some properties even have horses. Now, the biggest trade-off is convenience because you're not really that close to any shopping, so you're always gonna have to drive maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And price-wise, it's definitely on the higher end. Most of these homes are anywhere from 3 to 5 million, so it's a very cool area if you want some land, but it's also very expensive. And look, if you absolutely want a new construction home in Encinitas, the reality is there's very little of it. If you look at the market, there might only be 10 or so new construction homes in all of Encinitas. And most of those aren't big master plan communities. They're either small infill projects or custom built properties. If you look at communities like The Cove, it's only about 40 homes, and even that's considered a huge new development. And then you have Ocean Knoll, which is literally 10 homes total. So that just shows you the scale you're working with here. Encinitas is an older coastal city where most of the land has already been developed, and there just isn't space left to build massive communities. But if you look at somewhere like Carlsbad, they have way more open land, and that's where you're gonna get a lot more new construction. They have giant communities with hundreds of new homes, so if you absolutely want a new house, it's gonna be hard to find in Encinitas. But feel free to let me know if that's something you're interested in, and I'll point you in the right direction. All right, let's talk a little bit about real estate prices because that's obviously gonna be a huge factor. So the median home price is about 1.8 million, but that includes condos and townhomes. So if we take those out of there, it actually jumps up to almost 2.3 million. The median price in San Diego County is about 1.1, so you're gonna have to pay more than double just to live here. Right now, the lowest priced home in Encinitas is at 1.8 million, so that's really the entry point here. And look, anything under 2.2 million is probably gonna be older, maybe smaller, or just not in great condition. So if you want something that's a lot more move-in ready, you're for sure gonna have to look over 2.2. Now, if you're okay with a condo or a townhouse, those are obviously gonna be way more affordable. Just remember, you're gonna have about a $300 to $600 a month HOA fee. But the median price on these is about 1.1 million, which is basically half the price of a standalone. So Encinitas is definitely on the pricier side, but those are kind of the prices you'll see up and down the coast. Especially if you go down south into places like Solana Beach, Del Mar, La Jolla, those are gonna be even more expensive. So if we look at this house in Cardiff over off of Sea Village Drive, it's obviously a great house, but at 2,300 square feet, you're paying about $1,300 a square foot. But it's not even really about the house, it's about the location. And this is where you have to make a decision because for that same price, you can get something bigger in Carlsbad or San Marcos, but it's gonna be a tough choice. Now, I wanna touch on schools for a minute, and this is a huge selling point for families. Encinitas is actually in the #1 school district in San Diego. Most of these schools have an A or an A+ rating, and this is why home prices are where they're at. It's mostly high-earning families that want their kids in the best schools, and they all want to live around here. Now, what might surprise you is that Encinitas is split into 2 districts. There's Encinitas Union for elementary schools and San Diego Union for middle and high school. And sometimes the boundaries get confusing, but depending on what street exactly you live on, you might end up in a completely different school than you thought. So if you want your kids going to a specific one, then you absolutely have to check the boundaries. I've heard of people that just assumed a house was in a specific school zone and they never even checked, and it turned out to be a big problem. That's why you want to get ahead of this, and it's something I can help with, so just let me know and I'll get you all the info. And look, I really try to lay out everything for you, but obviously there's a lot more that I couldn't get into, so if there's something that I didn't talk about or maybe questions that you have after watching this, all my information is on the screen, so feel free to call, text, or email me anytime, and I'd love to help you figure out if Encinitas or maybe another part of San Diego works better for you. There's so many different lifestyles here, especially if you're not from San Diego. It's hard to wrap your head around everything, so definitely reach out and I'll make it way easier for you. Also, I'm gonna link a video right here where I compare Encinitas to Carlsbad, so check that out to see the differences, or just take a look at my channel for some other videos on San Diego. All right, I'll see you in the next one.